Welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish, the podcast where we sit down with neighbors, experts, and friends to explore the stories, the questions, and the big little issues that shape life in our town, one conversation at a time. This week, we sat down with Trevor Gould, Mi'kmaq community historian and former band council member out in Paqtnkek, to talk about Paqtnkek and Mi'kmaq people and the history of Antigonish and where the word Antigonish comes from and just so many things. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish, or should I say, Let's Talk Naligitchkunigitch.
Oh,
that's pretty good.
Wow,
You like that?
Not bad, man.
Thank you very much. I am your host, Justin, and my co-host,
Anuj.
and we are very excited today to be talking with Trevor Gould, a Mi'kmaq community historian and former band council member over in Paqtnkek. Trevor, hello, sir.
Hello, Justin.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
we're excited here today because we are going to sort of learn as much as we can about Paqtnkek, the history of it, Mi'kmaq people here, somehow within 25 to 30 minutes. That is our goal.
We're going to do our best.
Yeah. So you obviously... Well, let's talk about you
All right,
before we get into all the things you know.
All right, it's okay to move this?
Yeah, please.
right.
Yeah. So I've, as I was mentioning before, I've been stalking you on the internet. You're very prominent, doing a lot of things. A lot of it about Mi'kmaq history. You're a director. You made a film. You wrote a film, and you are quite famous, I think, as an emcee at powwows and organizing powwows.
I wouldn't go famous. But
Relatively,
would-
quite famous.
maybe locally, very locally. I'm local, very...
Yeah, you know a lot about place names. You know a lot about Mi'kmaq history, obviously, and the language as well.
I'm not fluent in the language,
Yeah.
but I'm learning every day as well.
So tell us then your history. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What have you been up to in the past, 30, 40 years?
I am 42 years old, born and raised in Paqtnkek. I am from here. I sprouted from here. I studied Canadian history at Dalhousie. I worked at a cultural center for about 10 years.
Okay.
So I didn't finish the degree and was on academic probation, and I got a job in a cultural center.
Nice.
And I did that for about 12 years. So
Where was that?
in Truro,
Okay.
at Mi'kmawey Debert Cultural Centre. So a lot of the stuff that I've learned on the job there.
One thing that I remember you saying very early on, I was very new at the time, 2012, you had come, I believe, to Cody. You said, we often give more credence to written history, whereas actually oral history is how history gets passed on. And so, and you made that point very clear of how you have embraced and learned from the oral history. Say a little bit more.
You were at that talk. That was a while ago. Wow. Yeah. I working at the cultural center, I got really, really into Mi'kmaq oral histories and legends and stories. And when you're sitting at the table and talking history with other organizations that are non-Indigenous, the fact that if you don't have a ring, or if it's not written, or if it's not archived in a written form, it's hard to see it as a reliable source.
Yeah.
So historians, especially Mi'kmaq historians, for the past, since time immemorial, really, we've been arguing this, that oral histories are important in our culture, and this is how we record, and this is how we pass down. This is our oral histories. The treaties are a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. We only, in our communities, knew of the existence of the treaties because we passed it down from one another. And for hundreds of years, it was denied and ignored by the rest of Nova Scotia towns, cultures, societies.
So was there a tension when you were studying history? Was there a tension between this sort of Western idea of written history and your oral history traditions when you were learning stuff?
Yeah, man. I imagine university is very different now.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was studying history in the 2000s in Dow, I was really interested in taking as many Atlantic history courses as I could, and they all would start the same. They have to start with Indigenous history, and to talk a little bit about the Indigenous people of this area of that time. But that's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's almost like they're mandated to start their
they're checking a
class.
box.
Yeah, just checking a box.
Yeah.
Where did the Mi'kmaq fit in the rest of these stories? I took this history class called the Post-Confederation of Canada, and it was just all about. And there's lots of history to talk about post-Confederation Atlantic Canada, but what about the Mi'kmaq? What happens to the Mi'kmaq there? And that was one of those things I was really interested in. I wanted to know these where do we fit into these stories that are constantly being told?
Yeah.
Where's the Mi'kmaq story of the Halifax explosion? Where's the Mi'kmaq story of the founding of Antigonish? Where's the Mi'kmaq story of the founding of the town of Truro? All of these... it's just missing. And that's what I tied onto. And that's what I wanted to know, especially when I was going to university. And that's probably why I got so interested in working at Mi'kmawey Debert.
Right.
Because we were working with organizations telling those stories. And it's kind of how I fell into coming back home and learning more about the history here.
Right.
So if we pivot to that, and we are talking to Antigonishers here.
Yes.
Right? How would you give us a lesson on Antigonish's history from your perspective?
Yes. As briefly as you can. But going back, a few thousand years, see if you can wrap that up into 15 minutes.
But where do we start? That's another thing. Like, where do we start? This place is thousands and thousands of years old. Right. In this area where we're at and right now, where we're sitting. This is a Mi'kmaq place that existed for thousands of years. And the history of everything that's existing now is really just a blip on the amount of existence that this place has had.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we start? Do we start with the Acadians that came here? And maybe even that is unclear. We don't have an exact real date. 1720s or between the 1720s and the 40s, the founding of Paqtnkek happens. And that is probably the beginning of the change here.
The change.
I would say.
Yeah.
Knowing that where we're at is in the middle of a very important district. Let's start off with that.
Okay.
So Mi'kmawey is separated into 7 districts. Kind of look at them as... I like looking at them as countries, but really they're kind of looking at them as like separated into like almost like a county.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So Cape Breton itself is one district. It's called Unama'ki. And it means different things to different people. Land of the fog, land of the Mi'kmaq, place where the whales are hunted. Different versions for different people. Mm. When you cross Unama'ki and you come over into the mainland, where it would be like Odds Cove area,
mm-hmm.
where you're landing in is called Eskikewa'kik. Eskikewa'kik. That is the country we are in.
Okay.
That is our district. This is the main part. This is where
Yeah.
Eskikewa'kik is the Mi'kmaq district we are in, and it means the skin dressers territory.
All right.
Skin dressers.
The skin dressers territory.
Wow.
That is who we are. We are skin dressers. That's how we should. This is a great way to start.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's not recognized. Even my community, we don't celebrate this. We don't celebrate the idea that we are from Eskikewa'kik. We are the only, right now, Paqtnkek is the only Mi'kmaq community within this district. Right. Eskikewa'kik is really Antigonish in Geisler County.
Okay.
Right.
And Antigonish is kind of like a very important part in this district. It is the head of a very important river system.
And when did the Paqtnkek Nation move to the current location? When did that happen?
Yeah. That sounds like a long...
Well, we're jumping way ahead, man.
Yeah, but we have only 25 minutes.
Yeah, we're jumping way ahead, man.
Yeah.
Okay. 1760s-ish. Timothy Hurley, loyalist captain, big, one of the main important person on founding the town of Antigonish.
Okay.
Man, that's another 40-minute talk in itself on just this dude. But he was a soldier in the Loyalist Army, and he found this place while looking for soldiers that ran away. Well, he came into the harbor here in Antigonish Harbor. Yeah. He came in here, and when he came, there was hundreds of Mi'kmaq people living on both sides.
Okay.
Down where Town Point is,
yep.
And on the other side in Williams Point. Both sides of the harbor are filled with Mi'kmaq communities and villages. Beautiful river, beautiful place, and when he came, he didn't receive a good response as well.
Yeah,
and conflicts arise, and when he built the town, man, again, we could talk about this a long talk.
I know, right?
I want to go into detail, and I don't know how to.
But
I don't know how to bring the details down because there's so much that happened in this amount of time.
I know.
When the loyalists came to Antigonish, like when they came here, it wasn't even called Antigonish first. They wanted to call it Dorchester. And even for a long time, it was called Dorchester.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
It was called Dorchester, and there were no roads. There were no roads because they came from the harbor.
Right.
And all the other settlements were on South Shore, Nova Scotia. So there was no east-west roads, no north and south. So
I think this will be a fascinating conversation at length. I would like to kind of pivot to current day.
How did we get to Paqtnkek? Okay,
We've given you an impossible task to be a man who knows so much, and you can only say like 10 words about it.
Okay, really. We were moved really like big major movements, probably like 3-4 times. Think of like in the 1780s when you come here, this place is filled with hundreds of Mi'kmaq people. Conflict arise. We're not getting along, and then eventually the loyalists come back, make a town, and we're pushed. We're pushed into the mountains. We're pushed down the river. We are told eventually, after the town is moved, and there's a couple decades of living here, we have to move. One of the main things about the Mi'kmaq people living here in that area where the harbor is that is one of the most greatest resources for eels, even today.
Yeah.
So leaving this resource was a big deal.
Yeah.
We moved from here to Paqtnkek, and we made that journey in really the late 1700s.
Okay.
We were forced out of here. But not all Mi'kmaq people left. There were still a lot of Mi'kmaq people that stayed in this area, but we started the move to Paqtnkek, which actually comes from a Mi'kmaq word, Paqtnkek. Paqtnkek is not a French word. A lot of people don't understand that, but we moved from here to Paqtnkek. Paqtnkek.
And beautiful. I think of it because again, I stalked you online. So if I remember a previous lecture, it means the hole in the ice. Is that right?
Different things. I think some people in my community said that's the fishing hole, or the hole you make to go fishing in, or there's a lot of fishing holes there. I'm not 100% on that, but it's got something to do with that. Yeah, the fishing hole, Paqtnkek. Yeah. We moved to there, and even that we spent almost over a century living in this area. When we were in that area, like I said, we were there for a good century. It becomes 3 communities. And when you look up Google Maps and you're looking for Paqtnkek, you're going to see a lot of different reserved land.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of land that was set aside for us, and they are named different. And if you look in Heatherton and you go to the old place where the Mi'kmaq people lived on our old land there, it's marked. It says Paqtnkek and Niktaweg.
Okay.
Paqtnkek and Niktaweg. And what that was is just a combination of the different communities that lived along the river there. Not just one.
Right.
But we were a combination. When we moved to Paqtnkek, we were already a combination of many different communities.
Right.
Just basically for the whole 1800s, from the late 1700s, all of the 1800s, we occupied that area in Heatherton and Paqtnkek.
Yeah.
Right.
As a few different groups.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Communities.
Communities.
Niktaweg is one that's upriver by Heatherton when we still own a piece of land there. That's called Niktaweg, and that means the forked area. And there's a lot of families living up there, and that's really upriver.
Right.
Downriver from there, you're going down to where our land meets the harbor.
Right.
That's a Paqtnkek.
Okay.
That's a Paqtnkek. That whole piece of land that's in that area, it's right at the harbor front in Paqtnkek.
Right.
That's Paqtnkek. That's by the harbor, above the harbor, near the harbor. That's what Paqtnkek means.
Okay.
Around down the harbor is another piece of land that's very important to us called Walneg, where our church is at. It's a mission church built in the late 1800s. There was another community living there. So when we were forced out of Nulligitchkunianch here by the loyalists in the late 1700s, that's where we went because the Acadians were already living there. And also, there was another colonel that got involved that put land aside, Wentworth. We're not going to talk about that right now.
Okay.
But we got land there because of another person in the Loyalist Army. And we lived there for over a century.
Okay.
And even before Canada was a country, before there was reserves, there was land put aside for us there.
Okay.
And that's why we were in constant land claim battles with the province and the town because of what happened over there in Heatherton and Paqtnkek during the 1800s. Fast forward a whole lot of years, skip a whole lot of stuff that happened, a lot of stuff. And late 1800s, between 1890, 1917, between those areas, we are being forced to leave that. And the town, the county, and the province are trying to find different places for us. 1911, one of the major things for Mi'kmaq people that happened was the displacement and the creation of reserve lands because of the railroad. And that area in Paqtnkek, in Heatherton, cuts right through the land. And it separates our old reserve. They needed us out of there.
So the railroad separated it.
The railroad started our movement from that area.
And this is before the Trans-Canada separated again.
Yes, way before the Trans-Canada even separated the land that they gave us over there.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the original separation.
This is the original separation. Right. And they needed us out of there. So they started moving us from there to Afton.
Okay.
There was a reserve set aside in Afton. And the story goes there was a German couple there making barrels and stuff. And there was already families living out there helping with barrels. I don't know a whole lot about that story, if it's true or not, but that was the idea of like, wow, well, there's Mi'kmaq already in Afton.
Why don't you go there?
Go there, yeah.
Wow.
But also the land is
no good?
No.
And nowhere near the harbor.
It's all rock uphill, nowhere near the river.
Yeah.
So around 1911, I think 1917, we see the last families leaving the old reserve in Paqtnkek and moving over to Afton.
Oh, so everybody concentrates there.
Everyone eventually has to be there and eventually gets there. After 1917, Afton Indian Reserve number 35.
Okay.
That is our main place. But everyone that's living in that area right now, we are a combination of Mi'kmawey, Paqtnkek, and Walneg. And I think the majority of the families that end up coming there were from that main area of Paqtnkek. That's where the main families were.
Right.
And when we were trying to take a name, because that area where we're at now, that part of reserve, it never had a traditional place name to it.
Right.
It's new. Yeah. So when we were trying to, I think we accepted we officially changed the name in 2001.
Yeah.
And the name that we took was the traditional name that everyone knew us as a Paqtnkek.
Right.
But Paqtnkek is just one
of the three.
One of the many.
One of the three that we're really from. But I think it was the main one in Paqtnkek, right, in Heatherton. So right now, that's what Paqtnkek is, and that's why you go there. This place is nowhere by the harbor.
Well, that's the irony of it.
It's nowhere by the bay.
Wow.
But that's why we have that name, because this is where we originated. But also, the people that lived in Paqtnkek, in the Paqtnkek community there, where Paqtnkek is, I hope that's not confusing to people, we are from here.
Originally from
Nalligitchguniach, in the heart of Eskikewa'kik. This right here, this area, this is by the bay. This is
multiple
Paqtnkek.
Displacements have happened over centuries.
And that was government, the one in the early 20th century, that's the government saying you have to move there at some point, right?
Yes, that's the Nova Scotia Canadian government moving us to Afton. Yes.
Okay.
But we stayed. The reason why we stayed was the protection of both places. Both places, like in the 1900s, there were many other big factors that try to get us out of this area, and the centralization policies and the residential schools and even the wars. So many different factors trying to get us out of this area. So we once big community, hundreds, maybe thousands of Mi'kmaq people living here in the 1700s.
Yeah.
Now we're down to 600.
600.
So for a newcomer like me, I'm kind of, again, I'm only 15-year-old in Canada, and I'm a Canadian, proud Canadian right now. How do I square my Canadianness with your Canadianness? How do I actually answer that question to myself? I'm so fascinated about what you're saying and want to understand your perspective on that.
Yeah, this is a question you had before, because you live here now. So would you consider yourself, because this is Mi'kmaq land, a Mi'kmaq person, or you from Paqtnkek, would you consider yourself an Antigonisher?
That's a good question. Okay, I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
We have this term in our language called Eskikewa'kik. and it translates to the place where I sprouted from.
Right.
And that's also in reference to a place where my ancestors sprouted from. So what I'm about to say, I apologize as well. I don't mean to offend anybody, and I don't mean to offend anybody from the town here. But growing up outside of this place, for a long time, I did not have a connection here. I did not, and unfortunately, honestly and truthfully, a lot of my experiences with racism, my strongest ones, and I've traveled to the South, man.
So you bet you know what it's like.
My strongest, we're here. We're here in this town. And you look, I'm very visible, indigenous person.
Right.
And I do a lot of indigenous visible things.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for a long time, man, I did not feel like I was even a part of this place.
Right.
And the separation of our community from this town,
Is
historically and presently, is it.
a visible separation.
Yes, it is. And even when you hear the town of Antigonish and how it's promoted, what is Antigonish? It is the Celtic heart,
the Highland Heart.
the Highland heart of Nova Scotia. Big sign, right? Antigonish. But what is Antigonish? Antigonish is a corrupted word that originated in a very significant Mi'kmaq place, Eskikewa'kik. Eskikewa'kik. So I connected to Eskikewa'kik.
Right.
That's what I am a part of. That is where I sprouted from. That culture and everything that is Eskikewa'kik, that is me. But what it turned into, because even when you say the word Antigonish, you don't associate it with Eskikewa'kik. You don't associate it with Mi'kmaq people. You associate it with this town, St. of X, and the Highland heart of Nova Scotia.
That's true. You associate Paqtnkek with Mi'kmaq, but
Exactly.
not the town.
I would say, at least for me, and you probably arrived later than
I'm
I.
only 10,
But
11 years.
also,
Yeah.
I'm not a townie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're also from the county.
I am a county person. I'm from the res, man. And there's a big, and growing up here, there's a very clear.
Yeah, so, I'm going to again ask you a kind of very personal question. How do I, as new Antigonisher or new Canadian, do I have a place in this to call it this home? Do I actually, am I allowed to have a home and call this a new home? Or will I always remain an outsider in your eyes? How do I answer that question for myself?
Mi'kmaq people have always been welcome and open since time immemorial. We are literally the doorway to Canada.
Right.
And we as a nation and a people have been the first to have to understand what it was like living with different nations and accepting and adopting cultures. And we've been doing that since time immemorial. We've been adopting different ways and accepting different ways. So when it comes to people living here in this area, not just Nova Scotia, but Eskikewa'kik being here, you could see that we've lived with Acadians since the 1700s. Mi'kmaq people very, this is the reason why we are in Afton, because Afton is surrounded by Acadian communities.
Right.
Paqtnkek, Tragedy, boom, right there. Also Tragedy, a Mi'kmaq word, but we're not getting into that.
Okay, yeah, I love them in place
originated
names.
from a Mi'kmaq word as well.
Cool.
But what I'm saying is that I think as our community, and even because we're even still here, we're still here.
Right.
We are tied to this land. We are tied to the resources. So whoever moves here, don't matter where you're from, as long as you understand that where you're at is a Mi'kmaq place and that these resources were here to be shared with in a very respectable way. And if you see the land as Mi'kmaq land and you understand that, then of course you're going to be accepted. You see how we live with Acadians and how we thrived with that relationship. It's because they lived that and they accepted that. So much so that they didn't even change the name of where they're living. They did it with a French accent and it eventually being a French accent name. But look, they appreciated our way of life so much that they kept Paqtnkek, which is Paqtnkek, which is really just a French way of saying it. And then down the road in Tragedy, it was Dalhousie.
That's
They kept it as good as they could. Acadian community. So, long answer short, if you come with an open mind and understand that this is a Mi'kmaq place that you're living in, of course you're going to be accepted. And if you understand that treaties are living, existent documents made by this country and the people that live here, and that you accept them and understand them, then yes, you will be accepted to live here.
Yeah, I was just throwing this statistics. In my knowledge, 42% of Canadians today are either landed Canadians or first-generation Canadians.
Yeah.
And that's a huge number. There are people like me and you, Justin.
That's right. And I have to say, for new Canadians, when you're becoming a citizen, there are thankfully now, including an awful lot of information about Indigenous culture and treaties and things. That is part of it, I think, which is maybe your average Canadian 30 or 40 years ago wasn't getting that same information.
No.
And so what I'm hearing from you is that for a large number of Canadians today, this remains a somewhat confused understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm learning today with you is amazing. And I wonder why people like me and you, Justin, don't get to hear this on everyday basis on the main streets of Canada, of Antigonish. And it's not a contestation. What I'm hearing from you is not a contestation of resources per se. You are welcoming. You simply want an acknowledgement of what has happened and what has happened.
Just getting the sign put down a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Getting the new Antigonish Naligichkunich sign.
It's now on the sign.
Yeah, that was that alone is the one Mi'kmaq presence and the one Mi'kmaq thing that you can see when you're walking in Antigonish or in Antigonish. Yeah. But that's really, there's really not much else, right? But like, why doesn't anyone talk about it, and why doesn't?
Yeah, I feel like a few years ago there was some meeting or some signed document between the town and county and Paqtnkek. Am I remembering this incorrectly?
2018.
2018?
Yeah.
What was that? Like better relations, something?
Like an MOU, I think. I'm sure there was an MOU.
Yeah.
And what was that about?
Friendship MOU.
I'm not 100% on it. I wasn't in council, and I was away at the time. But I'm pretty sure it was an MOU, just an understanding of trying to work together.
So I have a question about the sort of how Paqtnkek relates to its identity and interest in doing things with town and county. And the powwow, for example, it was held at St. FX a few times. You were there. That's when I saw you for the first time, because you were emceeing it. And a lot of people from the town and county went to it. I went to it.
Yeah.
And I'd never been to a powwow otherwise. And now I think it's back, or it has been back for the past few years.
Just once, yeah.
Just once at Paqtnkek. And I know there's an invite saying like everyone is welcome. But I feel like it's hard for people, including me, from the town and county to be like, I'm going to drive over to Paqtnkek and join a powwow. Because I'm not sure. I feel a little awkward about it. Maybe I'm not necessarily welcome there. Whereas it was different when it was in this sort of weird neutrally territory. Yeah. So explain how, like, should I be going to these? Like,
yes.
How well, like, explain, why is there even tension there? Why isn't it flooded? Why isn't there a powwow flooded with 1 billion tourists like the Highland Games?
Oh, man. We were trying to create a bridge with town and the community. Chief at the time, it was his idea to create a big contest powwow that our community never had before. We also wanted the community to understand this, bring it into a big celebration. We didn't have the facilities at the time to have a big contest powwow compared to a small traditional community gathering. We wanted a big contest. We wanted to invite best dancers, best singers. We wanted to have this celebration. We couldn't do that in our community because our permanent grounds, the parking wasn't available because we just built a school. We just have a brand new school in that area. There's no parking. There's nothing. We can't do this big contest.
Yeah.
So let's start talking. And we made a partnership with St. FX. They were open to it. And it moved really quick, actually. Town was on it, and town and county thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, it's popular.
and the first year was a great success.
Yeah.
I think it was, and it created an idea that town can come and watch. It was safe. It's a safe place. It's beautiful. And in my idea of doing it, we did it for 2 years, create this relationship with town and this ongoing event that eventually when we do move it home, when we do bring it back to the community, we already created this
buzz.
A little buzz. And hey, you've been here. Now come to the community. That's what we did this past year. Hopefully but we didn't. A lot of town people didn't come out.
Right. But it's happening. Yeah, it's happening again next year?
Yeah, it'll happen again.
Well, then people should come out.
Yes, you are welcome. Everyone that's listening to this, you are welcome to Paqtnkek powwow whenever we have it.
Yeah.
It is.
Equally, I think, and this is just a thought on my part, we celebrated now 2 years in a row Indian Independence Day on 15th of August in this town, on right here, hoisting the flag, and invited everybody. And we named it, Freedom Day as opposed to Indian Freedom Day.
Yeah.
Freedom for everyone. And we invited, Paqtnkek chief and others. And I think, the town has changed in last 15 years substantially since I have been here.
I 100% agree on that.
And so how do you see today's Canada and today's Antigonish, which is very diverse? It's not just, black and white and brown and red.
Compared to what? Compared to like when I was a child, or compared to
even 15 years ago, where when I came here, it was predominantly white in this town. Whereas now you have, people from different parts of Africa, different parts of Asia, different part of Latin America living here and growing.
I don't think anyone's going to deny this or disagree with this statement, but St. FX plays a big part on that, and the people, the students that come here, and the Cody Institute itself plays a big part on immigrants coming to this town and making it a home. I think that's it right there. I mean, it's changed a lot in the past 20 years. It's changed a lot, like even the 30 years from when I was a child. Let's just put it this way. As of right now, I love coming to town. I feel comfortable here. I feel like I have a place in town now, I feel visible.
Right.
I feel visible. That's it. I feel visible. That's it. You know what, man? That's probably it right there. That answers it. I feel visible when I come to this place now. I feel that there is more acceptance and there's more want. There's more, like, I've been invited to the museum so many times just to talk.
Amazing.
I've been invited to St. FX just to talk. After I made that video about the place names and I made more, I've been invited back into town into many different organizations just to talk about that. So I feel visible.
Right.
I feel visible, man. And I don't know if that has to play on how many immigrants are here, or even just the generation of the people that live in town now that are different than the people that were living here or growing up here 30, 40 years ago. The generation is different. I don't know. I can't say that.
But thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we have to wrap up soon, which is nonsense, because I'm just going to list all the things I want to talk to you about that we haven't gotten to talk about yet.
All right.
Like two-eyed seeing, I would love to talk about that. What's going on with Bayside, the health center out there? You have a new birthing center happening, like a lot of like Paqtnkek-based stuff I want to talk about.
Well, that's the reason why we brought the powwow back to the community, because the place where our permanent grounds are, we're building a birthing center.
Okay.
So we kind of like tell the community, like, look, man, the arbor is going to be gone soon. So we had like this last celebration, last hurrah,
So where's the new one going to be? New powwow?
We haven't
picked a spot.
And I'm not a counselor anymore, so I can't.
I know, you're out of the loop.
I'm out of the loop, man. I'm just another band member, community person.
Yeah, but I swear we're gonna have you back, or someone has got to come back to explain all the like ins and outs of how Paqtnkek itself works, which is fascinating to me. Yeah. But before we wrap up, like you're now talking to I'm gonna say hundreds of thousands of listeners. Is that
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
I agree. Everyone in Antigonish.
Yeah.
And so what do you want them to know about Paqtnkek and your life as a Mi'kmaq person here living in this town, in this county, in this area?
if you're moving there, or just people that live here in Antigonish?
Just talk to people directly. What do you want them to know that they're getting wrong, something you wish they knew, something like that.
Every time that you say the word Antigonish, you are saying a Mi'kmaq word.
Right.
You may not know that you're saying a Mi'kmaq word, but you are. It comes from Eskikewa'kik, the place where the branches are broken off. And for thousands of years, my ancestors lived here. We say this thing that everything has a spirit, everything has a soul, everything has a spirit, For thousands of years,
I thought that was an East Indian idea. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah. Enough said.
Thousands of years, my ancestors been part of this land, buried or be put back and given back. So when you think of when you put your ancestors in the ground, they become the ground, They become the ground. They become the soil. The trees and the grass and everything that grows from that soil contain a part of them. Every grass, every tree, everything that you see in this area, my ancestors are part of that. Because for thousands of years, we've been living on this land, being part of the land and being put back in the land and being that. Antigonish, Paqtnkek, Tragedy come from Mi'kmaq words. And wherever you're at, in Eskikewa'kik, just know this, that everything that you see, my ancestors are a part of.
Beautiful.
This is a Mi'kmaq place, and it has and always will be.
No doubt.
I like it. I can't get better sentiments than that.
Yeah, I agree. And I can relate so easily to this because a lot of philosophical and ideological aspects of this I grew up with in India. The idea of spirits in everything and the nature, is so similar.
It may not even be spirits. It's just the idea that we become part of the land.
Yeah.
And we are there. It may not even be a spiritual thing. It could be even a chemical, scientific thing. You break it down.
The atoms are in you.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I think when you hear that, everything has a spirit. That's what, for me, as an individual, not even just as a Mi'kmaq person, but as just as a human being, when I think about that, that is my thought process of like, yeah, man, my ancestors are everywhere, and we are in everything, and we are part of this land. Which when the word Eskikewa'kik means more than just the phrase of this is where I sprouted from. It has so much more to that. This is where I am. This is where I am from. You can't own the land because in owning the land, you own all of that, what I just talked about.
The people.
How do you own these spiritual things? How do you own that, even that concept of like, hey, my ancestors are part of this place.
You can't own that.
Hey?
Yeah.
You can't.
Good point.
You cannot.
Even now, even today, Mi'kmaq people have a hard time explaining that, and people, European people that lived here, always had a hard time understanding that. So if immigrants or people that even live in town in Antigonish, that's one thing as a Mi'kmaq person, and that to understand that this is Eskikewa'kik as well. This is the land of the skin dressers. We were so prominent here with our hunting. And the skins that were here. This place was filled with caribou and black bear and porcupines. We were known for how we quilled our clothes. This was like the Paris of Mi'kmaq, I think. You want to go get good clothes, man? You go down to Eskikewa'kik. Those guys.
I love it.
What an image! Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks a lot for coming in. I mean, a shame insofar as there's so much information in your brain that I want to get out onto the table.
Yo, man,
today.
look, man, I'm not working though, bro. I got no job, so you guys can
You're
hire
not on
me.
Van Castle. You'll be here every week.
No joke.
Just,
man, we
but
could
also,
do it
I
once
think
a month.
we could branch out and do a just podcast on this particular subject.
100%. Like
Well,
bonus podcasts. There's like all of these topics I want to talk about. I think we could just talk forever about fishing, for example, or we could probably do 45 minutes on the Bayside.
Man, like just on eels
Just
and
eels,
salmon.
Yeah.
Eels and salmon of this area is these two species alone are one of the reasons why, in my opinion, Paqtnkek is even still here.
Okay.
Eels, salmon. Why didn't we leave? 1940s during the centralization policy, they are trying to get us out of here, and they did. A lot of families left, but why did we stay? Eels, salmon, eels, and that's a whole conversation, bro.
100%. That's a whole episode.
And you know what? I am comfortable coming here once a month and talking, man.
Fine to have you back. This is great. I enjoyed this. This was fun, and we will have you back. And thanks for everything. Anuj, any final thoughts?
No, I think I'm just kind of, my mind is just spinning with, once again, listening to you and realizing how much is there to learn.
Yeah.
Especially as a newcomer.
That's what's exciting to me.
Yeah. And I bet there are many more like us, newcomers.
100%.
Yeah. Who would love to know more. So we're so glad to have you here.
Man,
Thanks.
I like doing this. I love doing this.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have you back. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, you guys.
See ya. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Antigonish. If you like the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe. Just go to letstalkantigonish.ca and click. Voila! You'll receive new episodes right in your email inbox.
This podcast is a labor of love. Please consider making a contribution, small or large. Maybe a monthly subscription. Depending on the level of public support, we would like to engage local producers and journalists to create more regular deep dive news stories about life here in Antigonish.
Right now, it's just Anuj and I doing this in our free time. You can read all about the podcast and ways to support us at letstalkantigonish.ca. And if you're a local business that wants to sponsor the podcast or even place an audio ad, we are certainly not opposed. A huge thank you to all of our subscribers and especially our paid subscribers, which have helped us to buy the audio equipment that we needed to get this thing off the ground. And remember to get in touch with us if you have an idea for a future episode or a burning question about life in Antigonish that you want us to explore and get answers to. We welcome all feedback. Just email us at letstalkantigonish@gmail.com. Let's talk, Antigonish.